the program goes by on in a few minutes. First of all, we are honored to have past International President Michael Notaro, DTM, with us today. He's a lawyer, entrepreneur, and author. Michael grew up loving leadership, but hating public speaking. So he attended the University of California at Berkeley, where he made the single best decision of his life. He joined the Cal Beer Toastmasters Club in May of 1985. So yes, that was the best decision. I can say that this was one of the best decisions I've made too, after my marriage, of course. Okay. During his 31 years of Toastmasters membership, Michael has held every leadership post in Toastmasters, from Sergeant at Arms to International President. As Toastmasters International President in 2011 and 12, Michael helped launch the organization's new tagline, "Where Leaders Are Made," and began conceptual development of the Pathways educational program. In his virtual keynote speech, Michael will challenge TC 122 to show the world the power of Pakistan. Pakistan is having an extraordinary year with record-breaking membership and club growth. But this is only the beginning. Michael will challenge you to maintain and grow our passion for Toastmasters. Full district status comes at 60 clubs, which is right around the corner. It's just right there. So drawing in his 3 decades of experience as a Toastmaster, Michael will challenge us to keep learning, keep growing, and most of all, keep serving. Please note that there will be a question and answer session after his talk. This will be conducted by DTM Tala bin Hamid. Please message your questions through Zoom chat. Now I would like to welcome DTM Michael Notaro, past international presidents, with the power of Pakistan. Please.
Toastmaster Samir and fellow Toastmasters in Territorial Council 122, welcome. There I was, the year 2012. I was international president of Toastmasters, standing on a tall mountain in North India, looking over the rich, blue Arabian Sea. I tilted my eyes northward and looked at the nation of Pakistan and started to dream. Now, at this point in 2012, Pakistan had only 5 or 6 Toastmasters clubs. And I believe that Toastmasters was started in Pakistan in 1988. But I couldn't help thinking, when I looked at the tall, towering mountains in Pakistan, the desert, expansive deserts, the lush oases, the irrigation, and all the wonderful people, I kept wondering, could this be a place where Toastmasters could grow and could thrive? Well, in that 8 years since I've been to that part of the world, your region has become the talk of the Toastmasters world. As Toastmaster Samir said, you are tops of the world in membership, 35% growth, club growth, 42%. You're even at the top in distinguished club, over 76%. And I couldn't help but wonder, how did you do it? You see, I'm giving a speech to you, but really, as I was preparing for this, I thought, you should be giving a speech to me, because you are the ones that have thrived in the midst of a global pandemic. When most of the Toastmasters world fills my email box with complaints of all the things that are going wrong, you have continued to thrive amidst COVID-19. And our organization is going through a difficult time worldwide. But you continue to thrive. What I'm going to talk about today in my keynote speech, and I apologize, my video has disabled. I'm not exactly sure why, but I'm going to just continue with the audio. The three key points I want you to think about are: number one, focus; number two, follow up; and number three, fun. Those are the three key components for taking your territorial council up to a full-fledged district. Let's talk about point number one, first of all, focus. Now, I've been around the Toastmasters world for a long, long time. I joined Toastmasters as a college student at University of California, Berkeley in 1985. At that point in my life, I had no focus. I had no idea what I wanted to do for a living, but I was walking through campus one day and I saw a sign on a telephone pole. It said, "Join Toastmasters, stand up and speak out." Well, that was the last thing in the world I wanted to do. I was a very shy person, still am. If I said hi to you, I thought we were having a big conversation. But I went to that very first Toastmasters club, just like all of you. Can you remember going to your first Toastmasters club? And it was students at the University of California, Berkeley. They were from every nation. We had students from Japan, China, throughout, maybe not Pakistan, but we had Saudi Arabia, we had Qatar, we had South America, we had Belgium, Netherlands, all of these students. And they, at the end of the meeting, they invited me to join. I said, absolutely not. I would never join Toastmasters. As long as I have to give a speech, I'll never join. They said, join anyway. And I did join. And I ended up liking the people so much and feeling so much community and friendship among the people. Before you know it, I did start speaking. And then started speaking more. And then started speaking more. And then I basically just kept serving in Toastmasters. Every time someone asked me for a new position, I said yes. I said yes to being an area director, yes to being a division director. And it went on from there. As I started to study Toastmasters, I began to realize that the success of our program depends upon creating a mutually supportive, positive learning environment in the club. The singular focus that will move Territorial Council 122 to full-fledged district is a focus on the district mission. Now, if you go to our website, you will see the Toastmasters district mission. The district mission is very simply to build new clubs and enhance all clubs in club excellence. Another way to think about it is more clubs and better clubs. Your singular focus should be to wake up every day to think about how you can add just another club. There are many distractions in the Toastmasters world. Distractions, diversions, digressions, things that you can get involved with that pull you away from your singular focus. And many of you are probably thinking right now, why do I want to go through all the work to continue to build our territorial council up to 60 clubs, to go from 30 clubs to 60 clubs? Well, let me give you a couple thoughts on that. Pakistan now has 30 clubs. I suggest to you that there will be a day when Pakistan has hundreds and hundreds of clubs. In fact, Pakistan is the 5th largest nation in the world. You are bigger than Nigeria, bigger than Mexico, bigger than Brazil, bigger than Russia, bigger than Bangladesh. You have 220 million people. Think about that for a second in terms of the potential of what can happen for Toastmasters in your country. As you grow and as you thrive, the Toastmasters that come after you will look back, and they will always remember the Toastmasters that built them up to a full-fledged district. They will remember you as the ones that created the template, the foundation for everything that happens in Pakistan from here forward. Another reason why it's worth the effort is that it simply empowers people. I have been around Toastmasters since 1985. That's a long time, 35 years. Some people say, oh, you joined Toastmasters when you were 5 years old. Well, I was pretty young. I was my last year of college. One thing I have seen is that Toastmasters empowers people in everything that they do in life. When you can communicate more effectively in life and you can lead people, everything gets better. You get a job promotion, your family relationships get better, you're able to relate to your teenage son, your teenage daughter better, everything gets a little bit better. When things get better, they begin to galvanize for a country. The empowerment of the men and women in Pakistan is closely tied to the skill development. Toastmasters is one place where you have that skill development. There's another reason why I think you should think about investing in building the district. And that reason is pride. I just told you that the entire Toastmasters world, 250,000 people, 140 countries, they are all looking at the statistics like I did, and they see TC 122. What are they doing over there? If you continue the momentum to grow and grow to full district status, you will turn the heads of the entire world of Toastmasters. I wish all of you had the opportunity. We're not going to have an international convention live this year, but I really wish all of you could have the opportunity of coming to the international convention. We'll be together next summer in France, 2021. And everybody will look at you as special because you are, because you've done the work to build the organization. One thing I love about Pakistan, it is a nation of irrigation systems. In fact, it has the largest contiguous irrigation system in the world. And that makes me think about what Toastmasters is, because we are like a big irrigation system. We support each other, we are a family, we encourage each other, and just like that water percolating down, which creates a green, lush vegetation, the investment we make in one another helps build up other Toastmasters to be more successful in their lives. The key is focus. There's an old Chinese proverb. It goes like this: chase 2 rabbits and both get away. You might be distracted by certain aspects of Toastmasters that takes you away from club building, membership building, and club officer training. And that's fine. Toastmasters is a fun world. But keep in mind that those are the criteria that will lift you into full district status. The journey also requires follow-up. And I've been going to Toastmaster meetings, like I said, for many, many decades. And I have noticed that a lot of people stand up at meetings and they proclaim all the great things they're going to do in Toastmasters, and then we never hear from them. Where the rubber meets the road in Toastmasters is follow-up. Following up on new club leads. Now, the reality is that you could probably get 30 new clubs in Islamabad alone. Any one of your major cities, you could have 30 new clubs. The key is being willing to follow up. And when you follow up, you begin to use your leadership skills. because you find out in following up with people, either they achieved what they were working to do or they did not. And if they did not, then you can brainstorm and figure out a solution for what it is they have not done. I have found that people fail for a number of reasons. One of the main reasons people fail is they get afraid, they get fearful. And in Toastmasters, we provide the encouragement to help people overcome the fear. And yes, there is a fear of building new clubs. There is a fear of reaching out to a new club contact, making a cold call, and having them reject you. When you follow up with Toastmasters, you will realize that there are a couple reasons why things don't work out. Sometimes there's a people problem. Sometimes there's a process problem. And sometimes there is a resource problem. If it's a people problem, you can work to find out why the people are not properly trained, or maybe they're off course, doing the wrong things. You can instruct them in the right way to go. If it's a process problem, maybe you're not handling your demonstration meetings the right way. You can revise the demonstration meetings to do it in a way that makes Toastmasters appealing. And if there's a resource problem, maybe you need facilities or equipment or money, you can address that as well. So follow-up really brings the heart of leadership into focus. You understand closely why people are facing challenges and how to fix them. My first point is focus. My second point is follow-up. My third point is fun. Fun is essential to Toastmasters. When I was practicing this speech before my own district, someone listened to it and said, all three of your points start with F. That's an effing good speech. I thought, that is a fun way to look at things. And as Toastmasters, we need to have fun every single step of the way. Fun because we're not being paid to be at Toastmasters. We don't get a salary to be here. Fun creates energy that lifts up the district. I encourage you, I know we're in COVID-19 and here in North America, we're still in lockdown, but I encourage you, when new clubs charter, have a charter banquet. Have something fun for them. Make sure to recognize yourself and come together. And when you do it, you'll realize that the 4 core values of Toastmasters International will help you rise. Rise as a district, rise as a country, and rise as Toastmasters. And RISE, of course, stands for those 4 core values: respect, integrity, service, and excellence. And boy, do we ever need respect in our world now. Dr. Ralph Smedley, the founder of Toastmasters, talked about the important way that communication skills bring us together as a world and make the world a smaller place. When we communicate with each other and understand each other, we can settle our differences and our disagreements. Toastmasters teaches the skills that brings understanding and human enrichment. Respect means that every single Toastmaster deserves the very best of our attention, our care. We spend the time to help them. You don't have to be best friends with every single Toastmaster, but you do have to respect them for what they are doing and what they are trying to do as a Toastmaster. I stands for integrity. And integrity comes from the word integer, which means a whole number. Believe it or not, the entire Toastmasters system, the entire system is based upon the honor system. We are trusting people that every educational award they complete, that they've actually done the work. We are trusting people when they send us money for a new club charter that is in fact a new club. It's not a ghost club of someone who's just paid and people aren't meeting. This is integrity, and integrity is crucial to our organization. When I was international president, I remember one of the saddest times I had is we discovered some improprieties in a district in USA where they were paying for members who were not actually even attending Toastmaster clubs at all. And I had to make the call to disqualify them from the Distinguished District Program because they had lost their integrity. The third core value is service. And service is what we do every single day in Toastmasters. We serve our fellow members. There's a little thing that sometimes gets in the way of service, and that is big egos. In my Toastmasters experience, I've run across a lot of people who somehow come into Toastmasters with big egos. I used to tell people on the board of directors, if you're going on an ego trip, leave your luggage at the door. For us to work together as an organization, it's important that we keep a mentality not on serving ourselves, but on serving the members, enriching their experience. The members of the public who are exposed to Toastmasters, they judge us based on the club experience. If they come into a club and they see value, they see people supporting one another, they see a potential for improvement, they will get better and better and better. Service takes work. It reminds me of the old story of Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great, a man who conquered the entire known world by the age of 33 years old. One time, Alexander was marching with his troops through the Gudasian Desert, which is part of Iran, and it was very hot, and the troops were dragging through the sand with their heavy armament, and there was no water. No water in sight. And history tells us that about a third of the troops died from dehydration. One of the scouts came to Alexander with 2 cups of water that had been found. Nobody knew how they got it, but and Alexander took the 2 cups of water in his hands with all his troops around him. He reached his hands up high and poured the water into the sand and said, "Not one man shall drink while many thirst." Alexander was making the point that he as a leader was sacrificing and not drinking the water because he wanted to do what his troops were doing. In Toastmasters, we set an example for those around us when we sacrifice, when we get up early in the morning, when we do the things to help other Toastmasters succeed, when we serve the organization. And I can tell you that when we serve the organization, all of the benefits come right back to us. The final core value of Toastmasters is excellence. And if you do the first 3 right, you respect, integrity, and service, excellence is the byproduct of work, concentration, and persistence. I look forward to the day, someday, when we are all on a high mountain in Pakistan, looking over the country, looking over a country with thousands and thousands of thriving Toastmasters, reflecting on what has been an extraordinary contribution to empowering people in Pakistan. Remember those key components. Focus on what's really important. Right now, that's club building, club support, club training, doing all the things to build your clubs. If each one of the clubs in Pakistan charters 1 new club, You'll have 60 clubs by this time next year. Focus, follow-up, and fun. When all is said and done, your Toastmasters experience thrives when you live from the heart. When you live from the heart, the world will notice. When you speak from the heart, the world will listen. And when you lead from the heart, the world will follow. Back to you, Toastmaster Samir.
Thank you very much, DTM Notaro. That was absolute brilliant speech. Uh, I mean, the flow of your speech, the way you spoke, I think that by next year, we'll definitely have 60 clubs. As I always tell people that if you have quality meetings, the growth will come. So I think that's what it's all about. Give quality, and once you have quality, things will just go in the proper place. Before I go on to the question and answer session, there are a couple of people whom I have to acknowledge. They are the ones who absolutely made the Territorial Council in Pakistan work. The first one is Arif Farzana. She's based in US, originally from Pakistan. And she came in 2018 and gave a very positive report, which helped us become a territorial council. So may I request Arif Farzana to say a word or two, just a minute, if you may. Arif Farzana? Yeah, can you please unmute her? Hold on.
Yes, she's unmuted.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. Good morning, good evening, everyone. And Michael, past international president Michael, what a great speech and what a well-articulated message on the power of Pakistan and on the core values of Toastmasters International. And they both go hand in hand. If we follow the core values, which means we make others feel better and look good, then we are doing our leadership job. I am from Pakistan. I have known the power of Pakistan since a long time. And when I became Toastmasters, I thought that why Pakistan is not part of Toastmasters International as a provisional district. So now I realize that Michael has seen that vision long before I have, and he helped in making it possible. So as Michael is saying, we all in Toastmasters International are looking forward for Pakistan to become a provisional and full district as soon as they can in following the core values of Toastmasters International. It is my honor and my privilege to be part of Toastmasters International and help a new territorial council in whatever capacity they need, and they will ask me to do so. Again, all the best to you, and you are on a great journey. Back to you, Didi Samir.
Thank you very much, Arif Farzana. Once again, as I said, you are the one who really pushed us and us in world headquarters. And now I would like to invite the next RA Ali Shabazz. I must say that he has babysat us throughout this year. And whenever we've had a problem, and because we just didn't know what we were doing most of the times, it was also new for us. He was so kind that he's looking after a huge region, but he's always there for us. And I don't know how he has the time. All I can say is that he must have cloned himself in a secret lab, because the amount of support he gives to everybody is phenomenal. I'd like R.A. Ali to please speak a few words. R.A. Ali, please unmute him.
Didi Samir, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Thank you. Past International President Michael, Didi Samir, PQD Zaid, CGD Talha, RA Farzana, and I also see incoming leaders, Didi elect Zunair. That's okay. I can't scroll so much from the participants list. District 122, I see you coming this long way. You just finished a amazing district conference, and here we are. I thought you will be taking some vacation, Didi Samir, but it's never enough. You are continuing the legacy of getting your leaders, your members trained as much as possible. I was happy when I saw the poster, our past international president, Michael, is speaking. If I'm not mistaken, our past international president, Michael, was there in 2011 when Toastmasters was going through their branding phase. And this was what got me interested. I am at Toastmasters since 17 plus years. And during 2011, I took special attention, I gave so much of attention to the branding phase. I loved the new logo, the way it was structured, when it came out, the brand manual when it came out. So I see a lot happened when our past international president, Michael, was up there, a guiding force for everybody in the board and the world of Toastmasters. You see, the branding which happened in 2011 was an awakening for all of us. It's just like McDonald's and KFC. We cannot put McDonald's or KFC sign in a domestic made. In my house, I make some chicken fried and I cannot put KFC on it. So the same thing goes with Toastmasters branding. And I see District 1, 2 working a lot on branding. In fact, recently we were working out on the certificates to be given to the district conference organizers. And the district approached brands department and got the certificates approved. So District 122, you have been doing an amazing job. You have a long way to go, but keeping your basics right, the core values intact, like what Michael was telling us, I'm sure you will be not just the best district in the world in terms of what we see on the dashboard today. Congratulations for that as well. But in terms of quality and keeping up the core values. I won't take much of your time. I just finished 8 hours debate meeting. That was amazing, and 4 more to go. Thank you, Didi Samir, for having me. Take care.
Thank you. Really appreciate your being here. And as I said, throughout the year, you've been like a rock absolute that we could cling to whenever we had issues. So now I'd like to introduce a person, and to introduce him, I'll say that he's a chartered accountant, but I do not know why, because he's a man of many talents. He's a photographer, he's a writer, he's a blogger. I mean, he's a Leonardo da Vinci. He does it all. He's also a club growth director. And today, whatever you see before us in terms of club growth, he had an absolute integral part to play with it. I would like now for DTM, Talab bin Hamid, to please come forward and conduct the question and answer session. DTM Tala, please unmute him.
So much, District Director Samir. It's an absolute honor to be here and to be able to conduct the question and answer session. And first of all, I will abuse this opportunity to actually place on record my appreciation for the speech made by DTM Notaro. I mean, we couldn't see your face, we couldn't see your video, but we could feel each and every word that you spoke. And I believe that is something amazing to learn. Without further ado, I'll start with the questions. I have been receiving a steady stream of questions. My first question to DTM Notaro is, we are a small district right now, and we have a limited number of leaders, and sometimes the quest for rapid growth will clash with the quest for quality. So what's the ideal compromise between the two?
Please unmute DTM Notaro.
Oh, can you hear me now? Yes?
Yes, we can.
Oh, DTM Tella, thank you for that excellent question, which asks about the important balance between quantity and quality. That is, between growth and developing the people along the way. And I have a very simple answer to that, and that is that whatever I do in Toastmasters, I always take somebody along to train them to do that. So if I'm first time chartering a club, I bring people along and train them. I make sure that every single club that I charter, the officers are trained. That is so, so important. If you charter a brand new club and you do not properly train the officers and give them support, give them mentorship, then that club can definitely fall. It's important that everybody in Toastmasters, including people who are doing a lot of the work in growing new clubs, have a mentor. I enjoyed the wonderful words by Toastmaster Farzana and others. There are wonderful examples in the Toastmasters world. Get a mentor. That is how to develop the quality, because every step along the way, I have had a Toastmasters mentor that has helped me and developed me. So you take people along to do things, you train them along the way. It's a difficult balance. For you, I would push forward the best that you can. And yes, sometimes some new clubs that you charter will falter, and you do the best you can to support them. But if they don't have the motivation, you move on, you charter a new club. So DTM Tella, back to you.
Thank you so much, DTM Michael. My second question is also a very interesting one. Why tagline of Toastmasters doesn't mention anything about public speaking?
Wow. Well, thank you, Tella. That has been very much a point of discussion when we were in the boardroom. And by the way, I hope that many of you will aspire, DTM Tella, and Samir, someday being on our board of directors. We discussed this issue. And what we found is that what Toastmasters really does, when you put together everything, speaking, communication, meetings, what we really do is we empower people. If I was to rename Toastmasters, I would rename Toastmasters Confidence Builders International, because that's what we do. By teaching the skills, we empower people. And what we realized when we talked about it is that public speaking is just a tool of influence. In other words, it's a tool to help get somebody someplace. The real issue is leadership. And communication is one facet of leadership, one very important facet of leadership. But we didn't want to narrowly say that that's all the Toastmasters experience is, just standing up and speaking. It's more than that. It's about developing leadership. So we chose where leaders are made.
Thank you so much for that wonderful explanation. The third question is specifically, there are a few questions now which are springing forth due to our somewhat unique social setup. So the first of those is that how can we improve representation, gender balance, etc.? Any tips to achieve some progress rapidly in that direction?
Well, the important thing to remember is that Toastmasters is open to people of every race, color, and creed. And very often what I have found is that people will tend to gather around people who are similar to them in terms of gender, in terms of race, in terms of ethnicity. And so this is why it's important that we constantly reach out to diverse types of people who maybe thought, I mean, I'll give you an example. When, I told a story in my speech when I was in India, North India, I had a wonderful time. I was with Mr. Balraj Aruna Salam, who was so supportive for me. And one of the things I found, I was once in this very desolate part of India, and a lady came up to me who was a Toastmasters member. She was in a Toastmasters club with 20 male engineers. She was the only woman in the club. And she was the president. the woman was the president of the club with other all other men engineers. And she came up to me, she stuck her finger in my chest and she said, you know what? Someday I will be international president, just like Helen Blanchard. For some of you who don't know, Helen Blanchard was the first female president of Toastmasters International. So as we bring people in, as we lift diverse people up to leadership, those people will set an example for people to follow who are like them.
Thank you so much, DTM Michael. You talked about that. You talked about the fact that Toastmasters is based on an honor system, but now everything is digital, and let's face it, in some aspects, it has become difficult to. It has become easier to actually surpass the controls or bypass the controls. So, should there be some sort of systemic check to raise flags when some unusual activity is seen, to at least ask and inquire, something of a deterrent of sorts?
Well, thank you, DTM Teller. That is a very good question. You know, we are all shelter in place, turning to Zoom and WebEx, and this is all new stuff for us as an organization. And frankly, we had to do this to save the organization. I mean, we could not meet and still cannot meet throughout most of our countries in the world. And so we had to turn to technology as the only way. I think that you are bringing up a good point that, you know, there may be some potential for improprieties in the electronic domain. It's a very good point, and I think you should raise that with President Deepak Menon.
Thank you so much. My next question is, actually there are two very similar questions. The first question was, just to remind you of the table topics, what would be your 30-second elevator pitch to convince someone to establish a Toastmasters club? And the second connected question is, what would you say to someone to finally convince them to take membership?
The second question, convince them to take membership, to become a member?
Yes.
Great. So let's start with the elevator pitch. My elevator pitch is this. Would you rather spend your resources or invest your resources in the future? What is the best investment you can make in your people? It is building their professional skills, building their ability to speak, to think, to listen clearly. The investment you make in a Toastmasters club will yield benefits for the organization that go well beyond profits. When a person can answer and speak, give a very clear and succinct answer to a question, a customer service question, instead of babbling on for a long time and getting the customer frustrated, your brand as a company gets elevated because they see that you have people who have high skill level. Toastmasters is an investment in the betterment of the organization and lifting the people. My second part of the question regards how I ask people to join Toastmasters. Well, my appeal to people is really very simple. A lot of people these days are very busy. Would you agree? They have all kinds of things on their calendar. And what I encourage them to do is think about it's like taking time to sharpen the saw. In life, you have to take the time to refine your professional skills. Now, many of them are afraid. And this is where it's important that we show them some love, some encouragement, to let them know that Toastmasters is a supportive place where you can build your skills. Many of them do not even believe in themselves. And we as Toastmasters provide the encouragement and inspiration to help them believe in themselves and their own dreams and hopes for the future.
Thank you so much. My next question would be, have you ever experienced failure in your Toastmasters journey? And if so, how did you bounce back?
I did, DTM Tella. I have had failure, probably more failures than successes along the way. One of my most notable failures is that when I was, well, it's equal to the club growth position. That's the number 3 position in the district. I was coming through the chairs. I missed being a distinguished district by 1 club. By 1 club. And it broke my heart. I thought, I am probably finished as a Toastmaster. I thought I am probably finished. But I did the best I could the next year to helping the team charter the clubs early enough so that we were distinguished. And then when I came to be district director, we were distinguished. So I learned from the failure. I learned from the failure. Another failure, I would say, is once I was training some Toastmasters in Washington State, and I had a very, in my mind, specific idea of how to build clubs. So I said, you have to use my formula. You have to do it my way. My way is the only way. And there was a little woman in the room who stood up and said, I'm doing it a different way. And I felt humiliated. But I thought about it. I came back to her. I said, I encourage you, Toastmasters, as long as you're doing it in an honest and not anything ethically wrong, because she wanted to send out letters instead of doing calling. I said, sure, if you want to send out. So she did it her way, and guess what? She proved me wrong. She proved me wrong. She became a distinguished district. And every time I see her up in Washington State, she always smiles at me.
Thank you so much, DTM Michael, for that wonderful insight. My next question would be, and there are actually 2 or 3 questions on the same theme which I'm clubbing. As we all know, we were experiencing economic difficulties even before COVID, and that have been now compounded by COVID-19. So what do you propose we do about those people who would like to join Toastmasters, but they can't afford to do so? Is there any way to help them or to motivate them or make it easier for them?
Thank you, DTM Tella. That's a very pressing question. There are a lot of people around the world who are hurting. They have lost their job. They are not maybe working as much. And sometimes the Toastmaster dues, they simply cannot afford for those dues. So I have a couple thoughts. Of course, they're always welcome to attend as guests, but we'd rather have them be members. We have in Toastmasters, I am one of the international spokesmen for the Ralph Smedley Memorial Fund. And the Ralph Smedley Memorial Fund is a fund where we make donations, and those donations are used to help hurting Toastmasters when there is a financial need after a catastrophe like a hurricane or different things. I would be in favor of maybe using some of the funds from the Ralph Smedley Memorial Fund to help people in need.
Thank you so much, DTM Michael, for giving us a direction to start thinking about it. My next question would be, since this word, what is servant leadership and why is it important? Especially since in our part of the world, the word servant does not have pleasant historical connotations.
Yes, DTM Tella, you are correct. It does not. I prefer to use the term service instead of servant. Service is what we get when we go to a restaurant. They serve us our food. Service is what we get when we go on an airline and they serve us with with food, or they provide us with our seat and everything. So my view on it is that it is a privilege to serve people. We are not their servants, but service is the way that our organization has built, has grown, in the sense that DTM Tele, one way to think about it is like, if my video was working today, I would show you a pyramid, and it is like an upside down pyramid, and the member is at the top. So the bottom of the pyramid is the international president. International president at the bottom, but the member is at the top. So we flow upward to support our members, encourage them, inspire them, and serve them.
Thank you so much. You would be pleased to know that that inverted pyramid has been the mantra of our current district director, DTM Samir, and he has used every opportunity. And I actually learned about it from him, and I have also been using it at every occasion, because that's a beautiful way to illustrate the concept of what leadership is in Toastmasters. So next question will be my last. And I believe that I have missed one question or two, so apologies to those, because we're running out of time. The question was how to keep our growth momentum, especially in this tough time.
Good. Yeah, that is really, DTM Tele, that is the name of the game. You have wonderful momentum going, and it's a lot easier to steer a car when it's moving than when it's parked. And you have a moving car. You are moving faster than anybody else. And I think the way I would think about it is that, and it gets back to my point about focus, the district leaders need to continue to look for those new club opportunities. Like I said, you could easily charter 30 new clubs in Islamabad alone, okay? So, and being motivated, having a club building team in the district that meets by Zoom or electronically on a regular basis, you discuss all the leads, and then you set up the demonstration meetings. So keeping that momentum of, here's the way I think about it, DTM Tele, is imagine a big spigot, like a pyramid at the top flowing down in, and at the top you have a wide aperture which represents all the potential new club leads, okay? There could be hundreds, maybe even thousands of companies in Pakistan where a new Toastmasters club could start. As you begin to contact human resources and people in those companies and say, hey, would you be interested in Toastmasters? That big list gets narrowed down, smaller and smaller and smaller. But you always make sure that you have new leads that you're repopulating with. And it's okay. Some companies will say, no, I'm not interested in Toastmasters. That's okay. Don't get discouraged. Just go on to the next potential lead and ask the next potential lead, are you interested in Toastmasters? So that's the way my suggestion would be, to keep the focus on the creative side of prospecting, trying to set up new demonstration meetings. I know the earlier question asked about, you know, you feel short on leadership, you don't have enough leaders to go on. And it is true that sometimes, just like my example from Alexander the Great, sometimes you have to sacrifice. I had to sacrifice a little bit along the way. When I was in India with DTM Balraj Aruna Salam, I only got 2 hours of sleep a night going with him. He has limitless energy. I need to sleep more. So it was a sacrifice for me, but it was worth it.
Thank you so much, DTM Michael. And as much as I would love to continue, but we are out of time. So I will thank you deeply for your insightful and constructive answers, and hand over the floor now to our District Director, DTM Samir.
Thank you very much, DTM Tala, for a fantastic session. I would also like to point out there's something wrong with Zoom today because I was getting messages from other members who couldn't log in. So we live streamed the whole event on Zoom and it's still going on. And it's very interesting what he just said about the lady you met in India, because I remember that in 2015 and 16, there was this lady, DTM Anika Ali, who was the only lady in Islamabad Toastmasters, and she had the will and the power, and she also managed to get many other women involved. So I think that we absolutely need women leaders, and I've pressed this again and again that we need to have a better gender balance, and we need to work on this aggressively. And I hope that, you know, with time that will happen. We'll at least have a 50-50 balance, hopefully within 2 or 3 years. Now I would request DTM Anib, he's the Division Director B, for the vote of thanks. DTM Anib is actually a doctor, but he's not a real doctor. He's a PhD in engineering. Yes, indeed. So he's not a real doctor, but he's a PhD. He has started 2 corporate clubs. He's also doing a youth club for young people. So he's absolutely dedicated. And not only him, but he has his whole family coming in. So you can imagine, you know, his daughters, his wife, he just, you know, brings everybody along. So you can imagine his dedication. So I would very much appreciate if DTM Manip would give the vote of thanks. Please unmute DTM Manip.
Thank you, DTM Samir. DTM Michael Notaro, we are absolutely honored to have you here with us and speak on the topic of power of Pakistan and your word of advice. My association with Toastmasters goes back to 2011. And I would just like to share with you that 2011 and 2012, I think that was the time when you were the president. We started I started receiving Toastmaster magazine soon after I became a member. And I immediately opened up the Toastmaster magazine, and inside on page 2, it was Viewpoint. And I thought, who is this guy? And then bottom it said Michael Notaro. And it was a fantastic word of advice. I thought, well, this beginning of this cover note is so great that I'm sure the magazine would be great. And the magazine inside was all full of wisdom. So since then, I was interested in the magazine itself, but I was more interested in the Viewpoint by Michael Notaro. And I was following very keenly the Toastmaster magazine. Actually, I had kept all of those magazines and I could just pick up and I could show you that April 2012, Michael Notaro. So thank you very much, Michael, for being here. We really enjoyed your advice, focus, fellowship, and fun. And we hope that we'll continue to share your wisdom with us. Many thanks. Over to you, DTM Samir.
Thank you very much, DTM Manip. And before I end this session, I gave a brief introduction of DTM Notaro. But one of the things I did not mention was the fact that I met him in USA and he was so kind that he gave me a lot of information, told me what we had to do. And later on, I emailed him and he immediately responded and he really kind of, you know, guided us. So I think this is the spirit of Toastmasters, that you help each other out. I mean, you know, he's sitting in USA, he has his own life, he's a busy man. You know, he's also written a best-selling book. So he is, you know, he has quite a lot on his plate, but whenever I wrote to him, he always replied back and replied back immediately with good advice, telling us, guiding us. So thank you for that. I absolutely and truly appreciate everything that you've done for us. And I think today we are on a good position, it's because of Toastmasters like yourself who guided us, who helped us. Because one thing I know, that if you are not sure of what to do, ask people who have experienced, ask people who are helpful, and you surely are that person. So now I think it's 9 o'clock, in fact, 9:10. We'll end the session. DTM Notaro, past president, thank you again for your words of wisdom. Thank you for inspiring us. And I hope that we'll keep on bothering you again and again, and you'll keep on advising us even further in the coming years. So I think that's about it. And I will now end the session. We can all leave. If you want to, shall we have a group photo of some kind? Would you like that? Can everyone turn on the videos? Yeah, everyone, if you could just turn on your video just for a second. And I will request, in fact, sorry, one more person, very, very important, our Zoom master, Ahmed Sajjad Zede, Toastmaster. He has been so kind. He has been doing all the technical stuff behind the scenes because I personally am a Luddite and he is a technical wizard. So thank you for that. Thank you for all your help. So are we ready with the photo? For the,
Yes.
yeah?
So everyone, can you please turn on your cameras? Those of you who can, and give a big thumbs up.
Yeah.
One more. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you and goodbye and have a nice dinner, everyone. It's 9 o'clock, quite late. Goodbye.